Oh, these two will get along, won't they? James Ashby joining us, of course, for One Nation in and amongst the great lands of Queensland. Right, look at that. Hang on. Is that a slab I see behind you, my friend? Building that house. Linda Scott, of course, has always here. Look at this, mate. What a win. How big's that joint going to be? 4 beds and a pool?
Tiny, mate.
I hope
very
all those,
tiny, very tiny.
I hope all those builders are unionised, James.
Oh, stop it.
I hope they're not, because that's what jacks the price up, Linda.
Fair wages for your tradies.
All right, and I won't ask about cashies and all the rest of it. That, of course, is everyone else's business. Now, let's get to Angus Taylor and his team that he's put forward today. Again, I think the best way to look at this is about who is the person they're going to be going up against, i.e. on the 6pm news, who do you end up seeing as being the person responding on behalf of the opposition to an idea of the government, right? We know it's Albo versus Taylor, but Chalmers versus Wilson, Gallagher versus Chandler, Miles versus Patterson, Bowen versus Tehan, Ali versus Price, Rowland versus Cash, and Ayres versus Hasty. There's a lot of people in there, and again, Linda, what I like about it is, and I'm one of the people who needs to be certainly won back, but clearly some strategic decisions have been made to make no effort in such, so that's fine. I enjoy the cold for a while. Now, let's hear, what do you think about this idea?
Look, Paul, as you look back over the 4 leadership changes that the Liberal Party have had, Liberal Party, National Party, Liberal Party, National Party together in the last couple of months since May, I went back and I calculated, because I find these things fun, every 9.25 weeks since May last year, there's been a new shadow ministry for this country.
Lovely.
Right? There's been the Ley 2025 May shadow ministry. Then there was the October reshuffle. Remember when Senator Nampijinpa Price resigned, Andrew Hastie resigned, reshuffle. Then in January, the Nats resigned, and so there had to be the whole reshuffle again. So this is the 4th reshuffle since May. I'm going to give them a couple of weeks and just see if there's not another reshuffle in another sort of 9.25 weeks, and then I'll start sort of paying attention. But I'm glad you went through them all. I think that's great. But let's see how many weeks they last. Let's see if they can make it a second, third trimester. I'm bad on my maths there, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. James, again, you were looking at this to see, okay, what are they trying to do to try to take back some of what they've lost? Is there anything in it that you see as clever triangulation?
Oh, look, I found it odd, I must say, that Jacinta Price didn't end up with Indigenous, that portfolio. Instead, Julian Lisa did, the whitest guy in the whole opposition. I would have thought she'd be perfect for that role. Instead, she got small business. Look, it's the same Turnbull crew. It's the same Morrison crew. Look, we'll see what happens. The biggest fallout here is the staff behind the scenes, because when you get these churns of shadow ministerial positions, often what happens is people get turfed out behind the scenes in the way of staff. So it'll be interesting to see who they've retained there.
Yeah, I mean, also, all of the Nats, essentially no movement in there. What I'm surprised by, James, is that I think, the obvious weapon that the National Party could throw at the Labor Party, and yes, tangentially, it would obviously be your way, is Matt Canavan. Like, how is he not in a shadow cabinet? How is he not deemed senior enough to at the very least be taking on minerals, to be somebody who's up and part of the fight in and around energy? Because, again, there's a whole bunch of people, again, in the triangulation about what to do here, that they believe that, dumping net zero becomes vulnerable. Well, if that's the position they're in now, then why not put somebody up front who's going to argue it in front of every microphone and every television camera everywhere? He may not want to. He may text me and tell me that in a moment or two's time. But when you're looking at the best players, he should be up the front of the front of the Nats. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I suspect you're right. I think Matt has made a conscious decision not to take a shadow ministry portfolio, but I think the weak link for this opposition is Susan McDonald. She hasn't done very well in this portfolio in the past. I don't think she really speaks with credibility in the portfolio either, and time will tell. But look, it's the same team that was rolled out under Turnbull and also Morrison. So James, I don't hold much hope.
So Labor and One Nation in the same place.
No, can I
same boss,
you up on that last point?
Same as the new boss, the same as the old boss, the Who song.
Whatever weird faction of the Liberal Party you prefer, even the Sky News headline was right faction MPs take front seat. Like, this is a giant swing of the Liberal Party from the kind of moderates to the right-wing, hard right people, and even Sky News has called that out in their headlines.
You know you're on Sky News.
I understand that, and I argue against you every single week.
Just if we're sort of doing
I
get it, but let's.
So I think this could not be described as what you've just said, James. I think this could be described as a big swing even further to the right, even further away from kind of the centre of politics, even further away from Middle Australia.
Okay, so who worries you the most? Of that shadow ministry, who's the one where you go, they're going to blow themselves up, they're going to do something stupid, thanks very much, we're going to get 110
If they last more than 9.25 weeks, I pledge a little sort of blowing out of the candle and a cupcake, right? Like this.
So there's no personality you want to talk about here? About, say, Chandler versus Gallagher? Because inevitably these people get asked about something that's outside of their portfolio. I, by the way, do not understand, and James, you might be able to talk to this for a second, right? There is a habit which has developed, and I don't know exactly when, it's certainly all of in our political lifetimes, where the Shadow Minister for Housing or the Minister for Transport goes and does an interview, but because they're a member of the government or a member of the Liberal or a member of the Labor Party, they start freewheeling on stuff that's not their supposed area of expertise, which means they always end up putting their foot in it. In that if you are the expert on, take your pick, right, defence, talk about freaking defence. And when you get asked about something that's not defence, say, well, mate, I can give you the number of the bloke who's got an opinion, who's our expert on this, that and the other.
Or the woman.
Or the woman, yes, of course. You're very big on gender this evening. And I understand why. You weren't able to come up with there's not enough women in the shadow cabinet, so now it's the host is appallingly...
I can go there too if you want me to.
Yeah, all right.
I can.
But again, James, is there anyone there who you think is going to be flat-footed that will inevitably end up getting tripped up by the great machine that is there to trip them up?
Oh, inevitably, there will be a loose thread there. But, this is the same team, Linda, that helped rack up the huge debt that this country finds itself in. This is the same team that says, oh, no, we've made mistakes, we're now fiscally responsible. No, they're not. This is the reason why the IMF are saying to this current government, who I think have done an appalling job with our economy, that's why the IMF are now saying, well, you've got to raise taxes. You've got to put GST up to 15%. You've got to introduce land taxes on a yearly basis and get rid of stamp duty. We were promised all these, get rid of stamp duty when GST came in. That never happened. But all of a sudden, it doesn't matter whether it's Liberal or Labor, they are exactly the same when it comes to mismanaging this economy. And that is why we're in the hell of a state we're in right now. So I don't care who they put on their front benches right now. I think they're both doing an appalling job when it comes to the management of Australia.
Now, James, about Angus Taylor and about how he's presented himself in the past few days, do you think or do you have any expectation or even sort of insight into the new One Nation voter about how soft they are in their support for One Nation at the moment? Again, I spoke of the Resolve poll yesterday that said 74% of people are apparently committed to the vote that they already have. So you've got to imagine that a very significant number of the difference between 6% at the election and the mid-20s where you are right now is relatively locked in. But what's your sense of it?
Look, some voters are fickle. They won't like the colour of the shirt that I'm wearing tonight and therefore won't ever vote for One Nation. That's just how some people are.
It is
Other people love the colour of Pauline's lipstick and that's what they'll vote for. But primarily, people are looking for policy. And the majority of people out there have had a gutful, as I said, of the two parties out there who have just let us down for far too long. It's not just the last decade, it's beyond that. And from a policy setting, we're the only party out there with a website that has our policies set firm there for people to go and read. They're pretty easy to understand and they set Australia in a positive, common sense trajectory to getting this country back on track. That's why people are voting for us. I don't think they're soft. I think they have hardened for many of them. No, and I strongly believe that a lot of them will stick with us. I'll give you this one tip. 79% of our membership base now, which is up 600%, Paul, have never been a member of any political party in the past. Only 10% of them have been former members of the Liberal Party. Wow. 2% Nationals, 1% of Labor. So you can see we're attracting just disgruntled voters who've never really paid too much attention to the political system in the past. But I tell you what, when they hurt, they want alternatives. And the alternative right now is One Nation.